Hello and welcome back to another episode of Non-League News. Non-League News hashtag 9 or hashtag 10, I don't know. We've done quite a few episodes, so please leave a like. We haven't been able to hit that 40 likes in a while, so please hit a like on the video. Let's try and smash that 40 likes and get that consistency back that we did at the start. So make sure you smash a like, subscribe. If you're new, we're on the road to 4K, so don't forget to subscribe. And yeah, let's get straight into the news. The first story comes from Dover Athletic. Again, this is another victim of the story that you just missed out on if you recorded the last episode, but this time it's Andy Hessenthaler going to Dover. Dover have now replaced Chris Kinnear and got Andy Hessenthaler. Andy Hessenthaler, of course, previously managing at Eastleigh, and they're actually on a pretty good run, getting 4 wins in a row before Andy Hessenthaler came in, and then Eastleigh lost their last game against Aldershot. So yeah, that's going to be a big loss for Eastleigh. It may be due to money, as Eastleigh have lost their major shareholder who then invested in Sunderland. So money is a little bit tighter at Eastleigh, so they maybe not be able to keep Hessenthaler, so they may be looking for maybe a cheaper manager or something like that. But Hessenthaler goes back to Dover. He was originally a player and a player manager, I believe, and he's also managed at Gillingham, Leyton Orient and a few other clubs, and of course managing at Eastleigh. But he's now taken over Dover, and I think this is a really important appointment. There needed to be a change. Chris Kinnear seemed to leave. It maybe looked like a sacking, but maybe it was due to Chris Kinnear not being able to give up the time to be full-time. As Dover are now full-time, they seem to have that investment to be able to do that, and Andy Hessenthaler has the time to be able to do that, which maybe Chris Kinnear wasn't able to do. So Andy Hessenthaler has now made Dover full-time, and it should be happening over the next week or month or something. And they may be linked with, they've already brought in Stuart Lewis on an undisclosed fee. So there was a fee paid, which is unlikely, which is a little bit different in non-league. There's usually just contracts and stuff, and people just leave and stuff. So there was a fee involved. They also brought in a young player as well. They also linked with Cody McDonald. So they've clearly got some investment now, Dover. And a side that is second in the bottom, there's a lot more optimism around Dover Athletic, and they look like they should be able to turn it around. And a fantastic result on Saturday against Harrogate, a 2-2 draw, and that is a fantastic result. They were 2-1 up. They conceded a really late goal against Harrogate, and Harrogate have dropped barely any points at home. They've only lost 3-0 against Leyton Orient, which is a bit of a crazy game for them, but they're a really strong side. Dover look a lot better. So yeah, I do expect Dover to turn this right around, especially with going full time and have Andy Hessenthaler. A lot more positive for Dover Athletic. So the next bit of managerial news is a bit of an interesting one. Jay Saunders is now the number 2 at Bromley, but due to Mark Yates being sacked from Macclesfield, Jay Saunders was the number 1 favourite for the Macclesfield job, but Jay Saunders has not applied for the job. He was offered it in the summer, but he didn't take it. It does beg the question, if he was did apply for the job, would he get it? But he's not applied for it due to family reasons. So Jay Saunders will not be going to Macclesfield in the Football League. So the next story comes from Ireland. You wonder why we're talking about non-league football in Ireland? It's because Sutton played Bohemians, and unfortunately they lost. So both of our teams, Bournemouth and Sutton, are out of the Irn-Bru Cup, but they sure showed their worth. It was 0-0 at full time, and unfortunately they did lose on penalties, 4-3 to Bohemians, but of great travelling support. I think 200 Sutton fans going all the way to Ireland, which is absolutely fantastic for Sutton, and I'm sure they enjoyed obviously going to Scotland and going to Ireland. It was 2 historic events, and I think non-league has shown we can surely compete, and we're the 5th tier of English football. It does show the quality of the leagues we're playing against. I think Scotland, Sutton beat a League 1 3rd tier team in Scotland, and Bournemouth had a great fight against a 2nd tier team in Scotland. So English teams could do much better in the future, and I think that maybe a little bit unlucky this year with the draws and stuff, but I think National League teams could do much better. But really unlucky for Sutton, and great support again. So safe journey from all those Sutton fans that did go to Dublin to watch their team unfortunately lose in the Irn-Bru Cup. But there is quite a lot of managerial news this week, and the next story comes from Gloucester City. They've appointed a new manager in the form of Chris Todd. On Tuesday, they won their third qualifying round replay against, I don't know who it was against, but they won their game. And 90 minutes after that, they announced Chris Todd to be their new manager. And Chris Todd has played for Swansea, Newport, and recently was playing for Truro in the National League South. But he's left Truro and gone into management. He was done a little bit of a player manager job at Eastleigh when they were flexing their financial strength, but hasn't done much else. So really unexperienced in terms of management, but a decent playing career behind him. And he'll be hoping that maybe Gloucester City can pull off a shock in the fourth qualifying round against Bromley, and he'll surely win over the fans. Of course, Gloucester City will be hoping to move back into Gloucester, so maybe Chris Todd can be the manager who will be in a historic day if they can get back into that stadium. But Gloucester City will be hoping that Chris Todd can do a good job. Another new manager appointed, and this time it's from York City of the National League North. They finally appointed a new manager. I think it was one of my first non-league news that they sacked their original manager, and Sam Collins was put in charge. He's been in charge, or temporary charge, for 2 months now. He's just got them just outside the playoffs, but they did win on Saturday. But Sam Collins has now got the permanent job, and obviously they're outside the playoffs, but he seemed to steady the ship a bit. And this is his first kind of proper job. He's a Hartlepool legend. He's played at Hartlepool for so many years, played a lot of games, and he's done 3 temporary jobs at Hartlepool. So yeah, he knows Hartlepool obviously struggling, so he's done 3 temporary jobs there. But he's been a youth team manager at York, and hopefully he needs to make sure he gets York into the playoffs, because York are a club that they're really underperforming at the moment. They need to be in the playoffs. It's a tough year always in the National League North. They've got a load of big teams in there, but they need to make sure they're in the playoffs, and hopefully for York fans, Sam Collins is the man to get them in there. So if we then go into the game of the game week, shock of the game weeks, and the tables in the National League, the game of the game week was Harrogate 2, Dover 2. And there wasn't too many goals, but I think this one was a good one. I think Harrogate got an early goal for a free kick, and much to people's surprise, Dover got 2 goals, but then a 90-minute equaliser from Kevin Langmead. The shock of the game week was Salford 2, Braintree 2. Braintree currently bottom of the league, and they stay there, unfortunately for them. Rory Gaffney 1-0. I get that notification on my phone, I'm thinking this is going to be an absolute Salford battering. But then Braintree come back with a penalty, and then Mohamed Bentonar with another goal, 74 minutes of time, and I'm thinking, Braintree are going to do this. But unfortunately for Braintree, Rory Gaffney gets another goal later on. But what a fantastic point for Braintree, and hopefully that does give me a little bit of hope for Ebbsfleet when I do go up there in a fortnight's time. Shock of the game week in the National League North is Guiseley 2, Brackley 1. A great win for Guiseley later on, and to stop Brackley not in the greatest of form at the moment. Game of the game week in the National League North is Spennymoor absolutely smashing Ashton United. There wasn't too many crazy goal games, but I'm going to give it to the smashing of Spennymoor over Ashton. If you then look game of the game week in the National League South, a fantastic win for Torquay, as the new manager there is absolutely smashing it, and Jamie Reid is scoring goals for fun, a hat-trick. It looked like it was going to be another tough afternoon, as a 2-2 from Dean Cox made it equaliser for them, but then Jamie Reid with 2 goals to make sure the points were going back to the southwest. Then look at the shock of the game week in the National League South is Dartford 2, Chippenham 1, but mainly the shock is not the fact that Dartford won away from home, it's the fact that Darren Ibrahim, their goalie, scored from a free kick from 60 yards, 70 yards. It was really poor keeping from the other goalkeeper, but Darren Ibrahim gets his, I think he scored before, but he's got himself another goal, and a fantastic win for Dartford, who haven't been too great away from home. We then look at the tables. Of course, we've got the big boys, Salford, topping it, but also with Wrexham, who are on great form at the moment with 3 wins in a row. Leyton Orient and Harrogate continue their top, and also the surprise of Solihull were also doing fantastically well, who beat my team Ebbsfleet as well. If we look further down, we've got Halifax on a little bit of a slip as well, who had their great start as well. Aldershot and Bromley look like they're on the way up after their poor starts, whereas Ebbsfleet, Maidenhead and past 17th, all of those teams are struggling. Chesterfield continue to not be able to find the win. Maidstone continue, haven't been able to rejuvenate since that. And Dover look like they can have an easy way out of it. They've only got to get a win, and they're pretty much out of the relegation zone, or pretty far, not too far away from it. Whereas Ebbsfleet, we're on the slide as well. Look at the home. If we look at the home form, it doesn't look good for Ebbsfleet. We're in the relegation zone for that. We really need to improve at home. Worthing on Saturday is going to be absolutely crucial. Of course, we've got Salford. That doesn't make me too hopeful for the game next, which I'm going to, Salford versus Ebbsfleet. But considering Braintree can get a point there, anything can happen. So I think Ebbsfleet are going to break that unbeaten record for Salford. Then look at the away record. I think Ebbsfleet we're just hanging in there in the playoffs. We'll probably lose that at Salford, but we're in there. I can still say we're in the playoffs for the away form. But we look lower down. Aldershot managed to get their first win away from home, so they're starting to turn things around as well away from home. Then look at the top of the National League North. We've got Chorley still doing fantastically well, but they're drawing a few games. 9 wins, 3 draws. They're still unbeaten. I think one of the only teams out of the 3 leagues to still be able to do that. Kidderminster having a fantastic season with their new manager. Non-league YT must be absolutely buzzing, but they have lost their unbeaten record. Then look lower down, Chester seem to be able to return their poor form, and Sam Collins is getting a best out of that York side, who are just outside the playoffs. Look lower down, Hereford, the new manager, hasn't been able to turn things around as they continue to be on bad form. They look like they maybe could be going in that relegation zone, which is not really what they want. FC United Manchester struggling there, and they yet only 1 win in this season. They really need to improve. Look at home form, Chorley on top of it. Look at the away form, Chorley on top of it. They're absolutely smashing it. If we look at the National League South, we've got Billericay, Dean Brennan, the new manager, looks like he's going to get hold of the circus and drive it for the National League. Was Welling have now taken over Woking, who are doing really poor at the moment, without a win in 4 games, and they've got 3 draws as well. So they're really starting to struggle a little bit. Whereas Welling are doing fantastically well, and also the return of Torquay. They're starting to turn it around. And then if we look lower down, we've got Hungerford, who are struggling so badly. 5 losses in a row. Same with Weston-super-Mare, who are yet to win a game. In fact, only had 2 draws from their first 11 games. Look at the home record, of course, got Billericay topping it. If you look at the away record, Weston-super-Mare are bottom of it. But Weston-super-Mare aren't bottom of the home form because they've got their 2 draws there. But away from home, they are pretty poor. They've lost all 6 games. So yeah, that is non-league news. As always, remember to smash a like on the video, subscribe if you're new. We're trying to get that 40 likes. Let's try and do it this week. So please smash a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you all later. See you later.